Another weekly segment where I either recap the week or tackle a topic with my man 30 and Still Gaming. His name should be clickable below. And we will be discussing the Xbox Activision deal approved. I streamed this morning just about an hour of Lords of the Fallen. I did want to get some gameplay out for everybody because there was some performance issues. So make sure and take a look at that. I give some impressions near the end. I'm going to end that stream and bring people over with a redirect. Make sure you smash like on the video. It does help it out, even if you're watching the past broadcast. And if you are here in the live environment, hit subscribe so you can talk in my chat and give that like a smash. We are going to be discussing this from the perspective of what is next. What does this look like? I just did an upload yesterday about when will we see Call of Duty on Game Pass? Is it going to be a rollout? Is it going to be something that they do all at once? There's just a lot of property that Microsoft can leverage. They wasted no time. They had a trailer ready to go, and they pushed it out on their channel, and basically saying that the deal is done. They were essentially waiting for the CMA. So for those of you that want like maybe a really quick recap, CMA had some issues with the cloud. They had provisionally approved everything with respect to console, but they had concerns about the cloud market. And there was a sort of revised proposal from Xbox and Microsoft saying, we will hand cloud streaming rights in the region to Ubisoft. And so Ubisoft has made their own announcements today as well. And that essentially is what got this pushed through. And I know there is like some final things the FTC is trying to do. I don't think they're going to succeed. They may get some divestitures or something, but probably nothing major. So we're going to walk through a handful of things to think about. Like, what does this mean? Like, what's next, essentially? You know, how quickly we're going to see things hitting Game Pass. What does this mean for xCloud? Something that seems to have sort of stalled out and stagnated. They haven't done much with it, and people have been kind of asking them to. I have my own theories as to why they've been waiting on that. And cadence of Game Pass. Like, are they going to put everything on there? And then, will this lead to more acquisition? So there's a lot of things for us to talk about. And those of you that are in the live environment, make sure you have smashed that like button. Let's get our first 100 likes. Mike, just off top, you know, what are your thoughts on this? You know, finally seeing this thing close and finally seeing it like, okay, it's done. Where do you land on this? What do you think's next in the immediate future for both the gamers, but as well as like Microsoft and Xbox?
Well, first, I'm just glad it's over because now the feed in X will now be, or Twitter will be much cleaner because it's just been it's 2 years this thing's been going on for the acquisition, so it's finally done. There's a couple things left over because the FTC is still going after them, but it's going to look really dumb considering the deal's going through. For Sony, I think there is going to be. I mean, they're fine with Call of Duty, right? Throughout 2024, right? Is it when their contract ends with Call of Duty? Is it up through? Is it through 2023 or is it through 2024 for Call of Duty?
Well, there's two deals. I mean, there's the one that they had that I think ends like early 2024, but then they did get a new 10-year something.
Deal, right?
But they don't. They're not going to be like marketing it anymore. Any of that. I don't think they have that anymore. That's the thing they're losing.
The marketing ends. Yeah, the marketing ends now. Like this is the last one for Modern Warfare 3. Yeah. So for Sony, I think they've already adjusted to what's happening with the Activision Blizzard deal going through. I think they knew it was going to go through. This is why they're shifting to the live service aspect of 10 to 12 games over the next 3 years. This is why they've pushed the Sony Core through. This is why they've pushed Crunchyrolls, right? That's the animated thing that they also own as well.
Yeah, they're going to push some of the Crunchyroll anime, not all, but some, and it's going to be ad-free because Crunchyroll's doing a bunch of stuff with anime that you can watch, but you'll have to, like, watch ads.
Yeah, and then they've also just announced that they're going to do the cloud streaming just through the PlayStation 5 because they do want to sell more PlayStation 5 next year with 25 million extra units, you know, and then they came out with the new system. So Sony's going about business as usual, right? They're doing their thing, adjusting for what they have to do. And then Xbox now, I think now that this is done, I think now they just wait a couple of months and then they start looking to see who else they can pick up. I don't think it's going to be any kind of big conglomerates like I don't know if like EA's out there or Take-Two. I don't think they're going out for big any ones like that, but I think they might look at other studios, you know, smaller studios that they can pick up maybe that they're missing because I know they're pushing a lot more towards the Eastern market. Mm-hmm. So they might look for other studios like that to pick up. And then obviously, now because cloud streaming is the thing, and Nvidia is doing it, and they gave the rights over to Ubisoft, and Ubisoft Plus knows what they're doing with the cloud service type of stuff. I think they kind of push more into Project X Cloud to get that more prominent because of the leaks that happened. We know that potentially their next system is cloud-based / digital, so they're going to be pushing more towards that in the future as well. And then Game Pass in general, I don't know. I'll just do a quick glance. I don't think they're going to drop everything, be like, oh, here's all of Activision, and they're going to drop it on Game Pass. That would be completely dumb. I think what they do now is, because now they have a huge back catalog of games, and they can slowly drip feed this. Every month they drop a couple of games here and there from the old catalog of Activision as they continue to grow the overall first party titles now, I guess you can say, over the next couple of years to give more value to Game Pass.
Yeah, I think that's the big question that a lot of people have in the immediate future is how soon do we see stuff hit Game Pass? I think, Call of Duty obviously being one of the biggest question marks, And I argued yesterday, I said, Activision made it clear that it won't be this year. And then they said next year they're going to start working with them to put games, plural, on Game Pass.
But I find that a little weird, don't you? That they came out right before this deal, official, and they're like, yeah, Call of Duty and Diablo 4. They announced those two games. Call of Duty 3 and Diablo 4 is not coming to Game Pass, right? And I'm like, well, technically, yeah, Call of Duty's not. But Diablo 4 is on the table, and Microsoft just paid $68 billion. If they say jump, they're going to be like, all right, where do you want us to put it? You know what I mean? Like, they're just going to put it on there as fast as possible, so...
Right. Well, and the weird thing was the way they phrased it, I don't even know if they're going to do day and date for Call of Duty next year. My thought was it'll be a slow rollout. Yeah. So they'll add, my thought was next year, like every month, you announce a couple of old Call of Duties coming to Game Pass. Right. Every month. There's a new batch.
Maybe even one a quarter. You know what I mean? Like one a quarter.
There's so many though. There's so many Call of Duties. I feel like
covers you for the next 3 years, doesn't it? You do one a quarter?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. And then the other thing we were thinking about is people were saying, and I do not agree with this, but people were saying Call of Duty is too valuable. They're never going to do day and date. And I'm thinking, what on earth? The money they spent on Activision Blizzard to never leverage Call of Duty day and date for the Game Pass funnel seems like a huge missed opportunity that they're not going to leave off the table. I don't think they do it right away, though. I think they do wait a couple of years. It's going to be a slow rollout and a slow ramp up.
You're saying wait a couple of years for like Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 4 comes out next year or whatever. You're saying that they're not going to do day and date. They'll wait a couple of years for that. Is that what you're saying? Just for the Call of Duty brand?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
For Call of Duty specifically, I feel like they're going to wait. And I mean, I could be 100% wrong on this. My gut just is that it'll be a slow rollout. Call of Duty confirmed recently they have games planned out to 2027. So
I mean, does it matter though? Because Call of Duty Warzone is free to play anyway, right? So the single player aspect, if it doesn't come out day and date and they still make money off that, that's cool. But Warzone is still going to be day and date. It's on all platforms. It's going to be on the Switch, the PlayStation, the Xbox, the PC, the mobile. It's gonna be across the board, and Warzone's gonna be there. So
yeah, I don't even know if they're gonna make good on Call of Duty coming to the Switch. I know the new Switches, we're hearing it touted that it can get quite a bit out of its performance with DLSS. I just don't know if there's a market on Switch for Call of Duty because currently there hasn't been one for a while, and that might have just been posturing, to be quite honest. Yeah. I mean, they didn't even crunch the numbers on what it would cost and what it would look like to bring Call of Duty to the Switch. That kind of came out of the FTC hearing. But the reason I think that they might not do day and date for a while with Call of Duty specifically on Game Pass is they have so much value right now that they can really, really slowly drip feed out to Game Pass. Because if I'm Phil Spencer, I'm thinking, okay, I want to hit these big subscriber milestones on Game Pass. I don't know if you do that by just absolutely flooding Game Pass right away. That's overwhelming.
You never want to flood anything in any business, right? You want to take it slowly and see and grow with it. So especially you don't want to, don't want to put out too much right away because then you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. They'll be like, well, last quarter you released 15 games. And now this quarter you only released 5. You know what I mean? Like, so right. They'll have a pushback with that. So if they just slowly there's no rush, right?
Mhm.
It's a marathon, right? So they're going from Game Pass from now to the 7-year plan to 2030 or whatever it is. They want to hit 100 million subscribers. You don't do that by just dropping everything at right now, right? They're like, Merry Christmas, and they just drop everything. They slowly give
Mhm.
you back catalog and go, oh man. Like, I don't see them dropping like Ultimate Alliance 1 or 2. Let's just say they do, right? Like the old catalog of stuff at the same time. I think they drop Ultimate Alliance 1, and then maybe next quarter they drop Ultimate Alliance 2. I don't know. I could be wrong. I just don't feel like they just drop everything, like the whole back catalog, and then continue from there.
Yeah, because if you want to I think the real trick that they're going to have to try to figure out, I consider this to be sort of the next phase of Game Pass, is them pushing it into more of an ecosystem as well as leveraging Activision Blizzard. If phase 2 of Game Pass really wants to not just get subscribers but keep subscribers, I think they're really going to have to change their approach, because I don't think a giant catalog of games is enough anymore. I think you have to start thinking about features and benefits tied to these games specifically. And I know they've done that a couple of times, but I mean, like, it needs to be a reliable every month thing that you're getting like currency in Warzone or something, where you don't want to be a Call of Duty player without Game Pass. Like, start coupling the two together, because that's the main struggle, I think, with a subscription service like Game Pass, is people subscribe and then they cancel. And if you can set it up to where canceling is really painful, that's where I think, at least in my mind, I see Game Pass going in that direction for phase 2, really focusing on features and benefits while leveraging the massive library of Activision Blizzard.
Well, you also don't want to release so many because you'll cannibalize your own. Like right now, I don't know if you read the article of Paradox Entertainment, who made Lamplighters League, right? They're disappointed right now because the game's not doing very well, right? Because it's on Game Pass, but it's being overshadowed by other games. It doesn't mean all games are in competition with other games, but it's on Game Pass, right? So they made their money up front, that we know, right? But it came between Starfield and Forza Motorsports, and Gotham Knights came out, and other games that people maybe didn't play in the past, and then there's the brand new games that came out. So Lamplighters League is just kind of like, it's a niche market already, because it's that type of game. So now if you flood the market with all this stuff, like, I don't know, let's just say they come out with Hi-Fi Rush 2, right? All of a sudden it drops, and then all of a sudden they also drop at the same time like 10 games from the back catalog. It now overshadows a bunch of other things that are coming on to Game Pass, and Microsoft, I would assume, doesn't want to cannibalize their own launches with stuff. So that's why they're going to slow drip it, a couple games per quarter or whatever.
Well, and we might even see less indie titles showing up on Game Pass as well as PS Plus. There was the recent article that I covered where Devolver Digital said they weren't getting as good of offers anymore. Like, indie titles weren't being as valued on the subscription models. This was true of both PlayStation and Xbox. This wasn't just an Xbox thing. And their contention was, our products are being undervalued now. And I think with Xbox, you're making the exact point that I think many people have thought and considered, is that, well, if you suddenly have all that property, you're not going to need to lean on indies and third party anymore. You're going to have your own monsoon of content that you can regularly trickle out,
right?
As opposed to approaching indies and needing them. And part of me hopes that means ID at Xbox, not the developer, but ID at Xbox, independent developers at Xbox. I hope they start to continue to do more really cool things. I think they've tried to showcase indies. They do demos and trials and things like that. I think that would be great if that continues to kind of flourish as its own separate thing, to foster supporting, $20 or $30 titles. It's a little bit easier to buy one of those, especially if you've been able to play it for a couple of hours.
Right.
But I do think Game Pass is going to be a trickle of content from Activision Blizzard. They're going to be very, very smart about this, because it really can be too much of a good thing to suddenly have this amount of content in the blink of an eye. You've really got to, I'm assuming that they have already plotted all of this out. Like, I think they were very confident they were going to get this deal. It became pretty clear to me, the only time it looked like it might get canceled was in like January. But as slowly as we got away from January, it was like everybody started saying, yeah, you're good to go. CMA, was the only one that seemed like they were going to try to block it outside of the FTC. So I think Microsoft probably had a whole plan in play, ready to go with, how this is going to roll out and how this is going to look. And Phil Spencer has even said that they're excited in the coming future to tell people like what's coming and what to expect. This is their commitment to empower everyone to do their best work, and have the widest possible audience was like the phrase that he used when he tweeted about it. Now, one of the developments from this is probably the only part I can celebrate, because I'm not too thrilled about consolidation at this level.
Sure.
I see this reverberating out through the gaming economy and being troublesome. It was interesting to see a bunch of people say, oh no, Disney buying EA would be terrible, and these same people were cheering for this acquisition. I find that to be very interesting, how they only like this acquisition because of them being beholden to Microsoft, but like all these other acquisitions they're terrible.
Right.
That'll be interesting, because we'll talk more about that later, because I do think more acquisitions are coming. But as a result of this merger, now this is coming from GameSpot, it says here that all these people I'm going to list here are basically like board of directors. So Rivetta Bowers, Kerry Carr, Robert Cordy, Brian Kelly, Robert Kotick, that's Bobby Kotick, Barry Mayer, Robert Morgado, Peter Nolan, and Dawn Ostrov resign and cease to be directors of the company and members of any committee or subcommittee of the company's board of directors as of the effective time. Now, the only person staying on to help with transitions is Bobby Kotick, and that's just till the end of this year.
Yeah, to the end of the year, yeah.
What do you make of this? Is this par for the course? Like it seemed in a couple of interviews like Bobby Kotick might not be gone after this, because I kept telling people, it's like, I don't know, this guy might try to stay on, because that's what some people were saying, was like, well, one of the good things that'll come from this is Bobby Kotick will be gone, and I actually agree with that. I think we want him out of the industry, but the entire board of directors is gone, and. Yeah. Is this in line with like Jim Ryan saying there's going to be a mass exodus of leadership, or is this par for the course? Is this normal for this type of acquisition?
I mean, for this type of acquisition, I'm not a professional at acquisitions here, but I do know from other big companies eating up other companies that they usually get rid of the higher ups because there's new management and they don't want to butt heads. They don't want to, whatever their thought process is and what they want to do, compared to what the new company that just spent the $68 billion. You know what I mean? You got to clean house. You got to clean house, promote other people into that board, or take people that are already part of your board and move them over into that company to see the transition through. I mean, you see other companies in the past where they get rid of the fat, you know what I mean? And they still run pretty decently at a smaller. So they're just, how do you save money? Well, get rid of the board of the directors, right? There's a lot of money there that you can get rid of. And I think a lot of those people move to other companies. I know jokingly someone said in my stream the other day, they go, wouldn't it be funny if Kotick moved to PlayStation now that Jim Ryan's gone? I went, oh my God. I was like, that would be terrible.
That would be awful.
Right. But, it is what it is. Maybe that's why PlayStation hasn't announced who's taking over, because all these board of directors now are now free. And maybe they could pick up somebody on the board of directors to come into that. Who knows, right? So I just think it's par for the course. I don't think this is something to, like, the sky is falling. Oh, my God, everyone from Activision is leaving. There's going to be people that don't want to be new management. They don't want to, go with the new company. Mm-hmm. Imagine being an employee that you stuck out Activision Blizzard after all of the stuff that's happened over the years.
Right.
And then Microsoft buys it, and you're like, no, I don't want to work for Microsoft. It's like, where did you draw the line? Like, where's that line where you work for a company that's so bad for the last, half a decade, and yet Microsoft buys it over, and they're like, no, they've gone too far, I'm leaving.
Well, okay, so my take on this is different than some of the takes I saw. Like, I saw people on Twitter saying, oh, these guys are jumping ship, they want out. I don't think so. I think they knew if this goes through, we're getting the heck out of here because we're tired. Like, managing the controversy and all of the problems, they were basically wanting to be bought out. So it's like, these guys are not saying, well, this is about to be a sinking ship, I'm getting out of here. They're hitching their ride to a golden parachute and riding off into the sunset. Like, that's my take, is that, and people are upset about that, right? The people that wanted Bobby Kotick gone are like, well, what does it really matter? He's getting a golden parachute. Well, no matter what you do, he either just keeps smiling all the way to the bank and earning crazy money every year, or you get him out of here and he leaves with a massive golden parachute and doesn't have to do anything. His grandchildren are set for life. So Oh, if he has any. If in my mind, I don't think this is like a shock or a big deal. You know, the board of directors leaving. Not to mention, you almost need them gone because Microsoft's going to come in and say this is how it's going to be, and you can't have that with how do you treat the hierarchy then? Like who answers to who and all that.
Too many chefs in the kitchen then, right?
Correct. And Bobby answers to Phil effective immediately, from what I read. He's basically, you know, answering to him for the rest of this year until, you know, he's gone.
Do you think Bobby could listen to Phil? You know what I mean? Like, Bobby's a big guy. Right? Like, and when I say big, not fat-wise, I mean, like, he's the king of his castle, right? And then all of a sudden, a new king's coming in to take over, so now he has to answer to somebody, and I don't think Bobby can do it. I don't think Bobby can answer to anybody. I think he's on his own terms, you know what I mean? So he's here to the end of the year, and I think it's going to eat him up a little bit, like to say, "Hey, boss," you know what I mean? Like, I don't think he does that. You know what I mean?
In my mind, I think he's ready to be done. I do. I think he's ready to be done. He did that puff piece with whatever. I don't even know what the outlet was that wrote.
With Corden. Yeah, he did the interview. Yeah.
Corden.
Yeah, he did with James Corden. He did an interview with James Corden.
Oh, I'm talking about an article a while ago that they did on him, and it was like they called him an embattled CEO or something. And I was like, what? They had like this choir boy picture of him. He looked all innocent, and it was ridiculous. So, I mean, I'm happy to see him gone and out of the industry. Hopefully he stays out of the industry like the CEO of Unity. Like, just get these guys out of here. They're terrible. But in the wake of that, in the wake of the board of directors and Bobby being gone, do you think we're going to see some of the cliche acquisition fallout from this? Is Microsoft going to immediately kind of walk in the room and start cutting and trimming the fat, like layoffs, studio foreclosure? Is that something they do immediately? Do you think they wait? Because I think that's where my mind goes. People are like, well, they're going to ruin Call of Duty. I'm like, well, Call of Duty's always done a pretty bang-up job of that themselves. I don't know if they need help ruining Call of Duty. But I also know Call of Duty has so many studios working. Like, so many. Is that going to be a prime target for looking for redundancies and limiting how much they're spending annually to keep all these studios open?
Yeah, I mean, you just said it. The redundancy. If there's multiple people doing the exact same thing, do they need that person, that job anymore, right? So they'll probably trim the fat with those departments, whatever those departments are. As far as the studios, Xbox is always on this. They're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't, right? It's one of those things that they didn't get involved because they're hands off, right? They buy companies, but they're hands off. And they let them do their thing. And some people say that, well, they should have got involved with Redfall, and Redfall would have been better. And then there's other people that when they do get involved, they're like, well, see, Microsoft got involved, so that's why the game suffered, right? So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of situation. And I think what they do is look, Activision's a billion-dollar company. This is why they paid $68 billion. They're doing something right over there where they're making a crap ton of money. So do they come in and all of a sudden start adjusting and changing something so drastic that it doesn't do that, right? So Microsoft's goal, or I should say Xbox goal, is to get it into many people's hands as possible. So, and Call of Duty is the largest first-person shooter game out there for the last, decade, right? 15 years. So, do you go in there and stir the pot to change that, or do you just stay a course with that and then take some of the studios that are working on Call of Duty and move them over to other projects, right? It'd be interesting to see. Someone mentioned this in my stream the other day. Well, what about if they took one of the companies that are doing Call of Duty and then all of a sudden they move it over to 343 and help 343 make Halo in the next rendition of Halo to help them out. So I see a lot of different things where they take studios, help each other out. They've learned their lessons. You would hope that instead of keeping super hands off, like you can still stay hands off, but get involved quick with the studios and ask what they need for help, and then use all the massive studios that you have now with different within Activision, within Blizzard, within Rare, within whatever, and then move them and help other studios to help them get those games out.
Yeah, I'm actually of the opinion there will be pretty significant downsizing and redundancies. I just don't know when they're going to do it. Like, there's a lot of people who think, well, they're going to be pretty hands-off. They're going to let Activision Blizzard be pretty independent for the first couple of years or for a while. And I'm like, well, your board of directors just walked, so I don't know if that's possible. You're going to have to put in new board of directors, new oversight. Somebody's going to have to take on those roles of overseeing this many studios. That was something that Jim Ryan said in the one email in the FTC hearings that we got to see. It was like, this is going to be a management nightmare. Like, you're talking about managing just a massive amount of studios. And that's why a lot of people at the time said, well, Xbox will likely not try to step in and manage all these studios. They'll just let them continue kind of operating independently.
Right, slowly see what they have to adjust as they go. Yeah.
Right. I actually think that's fair pushback, and I think those people are probably right, that there will be a bit of a hands-off period just to get things going, especially because if we know Activision Blizzard already has Call of Duty sketched out and mapped out until 2027, getting involved with that and interfering with that and messing with that would be a pretty bad idea. If anything actually happens in the next 12 to 24 months in the way of downsizing or like studio foreclosures, I would imagine it would be some of the smaller studios or smaller projects. Sure. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with like Call of Duty or Diablo, any of the bigger, more mainline titles, especially like I'm thinking King Mobile as well. They're not going to want to mess with that if the revenue is already moving and healthy, because King Mobile will be one of the biggest aspects of the revenue flow from this deal for, you know, seeking to get ROI. But one of the quickest ways to start to secure ROI and make this a more profitable deal is to shrink cost and say we don't, you know,
right.
operating cost of, somebody in chat is saying they have over 17,000 employees. That is just that's hard to even fathom as something you're acquiring. You're acquiring something that has, you know, close to 20,000 employees. Seems like an insurmountable task if you want any kind of oversight on this. As far as not even thinking about, you know, Call of Duty and not even thinking about Game Pass, something we talked about yesterday was xCloud and the cloud gaming aspect of this. And, you know, Ubisoft has woven it into UB Plus. And Steven Totillo tweeted about this, and essentially Ubisoft has clarified their role. It says here, he says the plans are to stream Activision Blizzard games through Ubisoft Plus. They can also grant rights to others to stream. It doesn't mean that Xbox, they don't mention Xbox Cloud, but the rights to current games and games for the next 15 years is held in perpetuity. And the post that Ubisoft published on their news outlet on their own website says, Post also offers handy reminder of unusual terms of Microsoft's EU concessions. In Europe, any company that wants to let people who bought an Activision Blizzard game play it via streaming can. Microsoft has to let them. So very, very wide open in the EU. And we were kind of looking at this yesterday and thinking about xCloud. And a lightning bolt kind of hit my brain while I was talking about it. One of the main dialogue points this year is that xCloud just hasn't been that impressive. Jez Corden had an article from Windows Central that I referenced when I covered this in August, that the capacity's not there. There's a lack of features because, like, Sony just announced 4K streaming. You can stream games if you own them as long as they're on the list. And those are two features that just haven't come to xCloud. And I put out the theory that they intentionally didn't do much with xCloud this year because they didn't want to look impressive. That was one of the main talking points in the merger.
Yeah.
So what do you see xCloud's role being over the next year here? My theory was there's a full court press coming. xCloud is about to get a lot more capacity, way more data centers and servers, and a whole swath of updates. And they're not going to let PlayStation have more features than them. This is Microsoft we're talking about.
Right. Well, xCloud's been around for multiple years. I tested it for years before it even came out to the public, and then when it came out to the public this weekend, I don't take my console with me. I literally just grab a controller, I grab my iPad, and I go down to my parents' house, and when I want to play games, I turn it on with the Wi-Fi, and I have never had problems in the last 3 years. But I'm also not playing like multiplayer games, right? I'm playing like single player games. Every once in a while you get like a little like spike or whatnot, but for the most part, it's a great experience, right? And I had a friend tell me that yesterday he got the PlayStation streaming and he did it, and he said it's awesome, it's amazing. He said that he can tell there's a downgrade in the graphics. He goes, my kids wouldn't. They would just love to play it, and they would just play it the way it is. So I think there's the adoption rate of cloud gaming is just going to get bigger. I've been saying this on this show and my own show, and for years now I said that cloud is going to be 6 to 7 years is going to be part of the majority of what's happening, because there's digital, there's physical, and then there's cloud, right? And cloud, Xbox is going to push on that very much so. Obviously, with that leak that we had with the console, even their next console, that comes out, if it's 5 years from now, is going to be cloud-based with digital, all digital and whatnot. So I think when you have two platforms of physical and digital, they're fighting over 51%. You know what I mean? But then you add that third one in, and now they're fighting over 34% with the market for majority. So I think cloud gaming has a more doable and plausible to become majority faster, because now they're fighting three-way split instead of a two-way split. Does that make sense?
Yeah. This is why I think Sony jumped when they could, because I think they knew Microsoft is intentionally not doing much with it right now. And so that's why they pushed out their big update this week, because I think they knew this is going to get cleared. This deal's going through, and then Microsoft's going to actually start really pushing out updates and better things for xCloud to make it a more convincing offer. Because that one slide from the FTC leaks that we saw, they literally said they're no longer a console generation. This is an ecosystem.
Yep.
And the only way that works is, all the things they had on the little chart, it was like they had TVs, they had phones, they had tablets, they had the, like a Steam Deck, like a portable gaming device. My contention has always been that our infrastructure just isn't where it needs to be for cloud to work well. I think that's going to be one of the major barriers for the PlayStation Portal, is that the minute you take it out of your house, you're at the mercy of Wi-Fi and speeds and
Sure.
bad networks and oversold neighborhoods and everything else. You've used cloud, other people have used cloud and said that it's great. Do you think we're going to see any infrastructure updates in America, especially because Microsoft's going to have a pretty vested interest in pressuring that, because they just made this deal and have spent all this money, and a lot of their strategy is riding on having really good cloud game on the go ecosystem experience. That's going to be really hard if everybody's signing up, or a lot of the people that are on Game Pass or are an Xbox consumer, you have no idea where they live. You don't know what kind of neighborhood they're in or what kind of internet they can get access to. So do you see any movement there? Because, we've all been dying for fiber to be more widespread and for the promises made, 10 or 14 years ago to actually come to fruition from all the internet providers. Mm-hmm. Is there an angle here you think Microsoft can leverage?
Sure, because now the people that the infrastructure is not there, they're like, well, what's the point of doing this if there's nothing there to use it for, right? Because even when we were selling 4K TVs, there was no one making content that was 4K. There was like the Tonight Show, and that was it, right? But they still made 4K televisions. They still make 8K televisions, but there's not much of actual footage to put on that at the time when it was coming out, right? So they laid the groundwork by putting those TVs out there, but there was nobody making the content to put it on. Well, now they have the infrastructure to put cloud gaming out there, but it's not out for the masses yet, right? So how do you get that to go? Well, if you start pushing, right, cause the problem, which is, hey, we're going cloud gaming, and everyone's like, the providers are like, okay, hold up, what are we doing? So they hit the main areas first, major cities, so where there's millions of people inside the major cities, like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. They charge them also for data charges, right, for stuff like that in the cities, where they're not charging that in smaller out areas, because there's not that many people there. There's more people in a congested city than there is in all of like Idaho. You know what I mean? So they're gonna force the companies to start putting the infrastructure in, because they're like, look, this is $1 billion industry. This is a $20 billion industry, whatever it is. So now you have to start putting the infrastructure in. So over the next, I would say, 6 to 10 years, okay, you're going to see that infrastructure getting better and better. They don't need billions of people to get it. They just need the hundreds of millions of people, right? Not everyone has a console in the world, right? It's only 200 to 300 million people that play video games on console, and they make quite a bit of money. They make billions, hundreds of billions of dollars now, right? So they don't need that to be 1 billion people with high-speed internet. They just need that 300 million people to get high-speed internet that are gamers, and then branch it out more and more as it goes.
Yeah, I've always been in favor of cloud gaming if it works well. That's what I said about, PlayStation announcing 4K cloud gaming. It's like, well, that's great. You're if you beat Xbox to it, but it only really matters if it runs well. If it doesn't run well, then, Xbox can come from behind and update and add cloud gaming at 4K. And if it runs better, then, PlayStation's going to be regretting jumping the gun too early. And because people in chat are saying that, they're where they live. Oh, it got better. We've got much better internet now. And I'm like, man, that's great. I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and I got told 3 years ago there was a 5-year build order for fiber in the city, and it's like, well, where is it? It's been 3 years. And he even said the neighborhood I'm in is a perfect candidate for it. Like, it's the right demographic, it's got the right setup with the lines and stuff, and how it could be run. And I'm just waiting, because I actually always, I think, will prefer to have something natively installed and having it run. But cloud gaming has so many advantages to a brand new game comes out, and you just want to try it out. You want to see if it's any good. You want to see if it's worth checking. And you're able to do that. You can just hop right on and play. Now,
right.
Obviously, capacity is one of the major criticisms that Jez Corden had. He's writing for Windows Central, and he's sitting here. He's a pro Xbox guy, and he was pro this acquisition, and that was one of his main points of criticism was there's just not enough capacity here. I've had a couple of people tell me recently with xCloud that they've been struggling with wait times and queues that haven't been a problem before.
Yep. When Starfield came out, there was major wait times for playing on the cloud. Yeah.
Right. And that's the big challenge, is especially if you start getting big name titles and you start having these big pushes and these big announcements, if you get what you want, right? If you get what you want, which is tons of people trying it, well, you need it to run well, because that's that sweet embrace of queue times on launch days and MMOs and everything else. It can really, really sour the experience, because then it's going to make people say, why on earth would I use this, because this isn't working.
Well, there's also the potential of when a provider, like, for instance, a couple of years ago, Spectrum upgraded, right? So like the base level speeds got upped, right? So they went for, like, I don't know, it all depends on where you are, but let's say you got 1 up, 1 down type of thing, right? On 1,000, up and 1,000 down or whatever. If you were paying for a certain tier, and then all of a sudden they raised the minimum up, then you're automatically getting that for that low price, right? So they automatically start giving people better internet that didn't have the best internet, right? They push them up. It's sort of like buying a car where it had like heated seats and power windows, right? There's a time where the base model now has that stuff already baked in. Same with the internet. Same with the phones now, right? Like the cell phone, the new iPhone 15. You might not want to play games on it, but it can play games on it, right? So it's on the basic model now. So anyone that buys a cell phone now can play the native games on the iPhone, if you're using it or not. For that, it's there. So internet providers will start to raise the cap because the infrastructure is solely there, and they're like, well, no one's getting it. They're like, oh, well, let's do some deals, right? And they're like, okay, well, now if you get on the lowest tier, you get 1 up, 1 down. And they're like, oh my God, I've never had this before. For the same price that I've always been paying for? Oh, all right, I'll get it. So they automatically opt you in because you have no choice. And then with Spectrum or any other phone company that you have, like I have Spectrum, Dave said it in chat, 100 feet, I have a pole outside that has fiber, right? It's connected there, but I can't get it because I'm in a different county. And the contract is not with AT&T's right there, and yet Spectrum has the monopoly over this area with the contract, and I can't get it. So it all depends on where you are and what you're doing, but it turns out that down the road it'll just be there when you want to use it. It's not people. I mean, obviously, if you want to get it but you can't get it, you're you're shit out of luck, right? So.
Right. Well, and moving on from cloud, because I do think my personal theory is that even barring infrastructure changes and internet getting better, because that's always been my big push, is we need that to improve drastically, especially here in America. My theory is there's going to be a full court press with Game Pass and xCloud now. Like, I think xCloud's going to be, this time next year, xCloud will be significantly better than it is. I believe they'll get 4K. They'll have better capacity. That's my theory. I think they were kind of holding off. They didn't. If they went crazy this year and looked really strong in cloud, I think that would have hurt their case for the merger. It would have been like, whoa, wait a minute. CMA's argument would have had a lot more traction and might have even convinced other regulators to step in and say, wait a minute, hang on a minute. You guys look too impressive right now, or you're too strong, or you're the leader in this category. They wanted to look like they were in third place in virtually every category, which, that's pretty smart. It's pretty smart play. And so I think we're going to see significant bumps to xCloud's quality and features in the coming year. And Phil Spencer, put out this statement, and the thing at the end here is interesting to me, because he says, for the millions of fans who love Activision, Blizzard, and King Games, we want you to know that today is a good day to play. You are the heart and soul of these franchises, and we are honored to have you as part of our community. Whether you play on Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, PC, or mobile, you are welcome here and will remain welcome even if Xbox isn't where you play your favorite franchise. Because when everyone plays, we all win. Now, is he setting a bad precedent here? Because is he setting a bad precedent here? Because to me, there's no way that they don't have a lot of exclusivity plans here for a lot of these games. I mean, we know Call of Duty is going to be a harder nut to crack. Once I don't know if they're ever even going to want to do that, to be honest, because of the revenue it generates on other platforms. I think that revenue is going to be really hard to let go of, and it'll be hard to justify. Like, I don't know what kind of an impact it would even have on Game Pass subs. Do you think he's setting up an expectation here just for existing franchises, or is he saying, these mainstay franchises, we're not, they're going to stay? Or are they going to take the Minecraft approach with all these games? Or this could just be pure puffery and fluff. He's just trying to make everybody feel good. And then 2 months later, it's going to be just like what he did with Bethesda. It's all ours now.
I mean, they have every right to make it all theirs. You know what I mean?
Of course they do. Yeah, of course. But he's making it sound like, nah, we're not going to do that. Even if you don't play on Xbox, you're good.
What he really should say is we're playing everywhere but PlayStation. Like, you can play it anywhere but PlayStation, right?
Single them out, yeah.
Right? But he can't say that, right? He has to say more places, you can play it more places and whatnot.
Right.
So, I mean, I think it's a case by case. He said that in the past. It's a case by case, and then he turned it around and said that these games are exclusive. So I do think that people are going to call him a liar. People are going to call him out on certain things. They're going to take every word verbatim for what he said. That's just it. That's his job, and that's what he's saying. So I think it could be where this year this game comes out and it's for everybody. And then all of a sudden they see the sales, and maybe the sales didn't do very well on the other platforms. And they're like, yeah, you know what? Let's just throw it over on our platform now, and we'll just keep it in-house, right? Who knows? I think, obviously, as a gamer, you want it to be everywhere so everyone can play. As a business, you wanted more places so you can make money. And if that one platform doesn't want to get it because of whatever contract negotiations are, and they're like, yeah, we're going to make it exclusive for just our system. I mean, that's the case of business. I mean, if PlayStation did this, it would just be on PlayStation, right? And if Xbox does it, it's on Xbox and PC, minimum, right? So it's one extra area that you can play the game, where if PlayStation did it, it would just be on PlayStation.
Right. Well, and I think Mo's pointing out what I noticed is he's very slick. This guy, he's very careful with his words. He says you're welcome here and will remain welcome even if Xbox isn't where you play your favorite franchise. Right. He's saying, look, you're welcome to come over here.
Yeah. You don't need to buy a console.
Yeah, you're welcome
to
come
get the service. Yeah,
that's
you just
right.
need to get the service, right?
That's right. So if something goes exclusive, he can turn around and be like, listen, I told y'all we're welcome here. Here is where you need to be. Yeah. You don't want to be over there. And generally, I that won't surprise or shock me. I don't think anybody's going to be like surprised Pikachu face, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Microsoft's making games exclusive. Like, after what they did with ZeniMax, like, we're going to do a case-by-case basis. And then he walks in the room, he's like, everything is exclusive, to the point that, like, the CFO said, wow. He was like, wow, everything. I think the same thing's going to happen here. There's going to be all this, everybody's benefiting, everybody wins, and everybody plays. That all sounds well and good. And then they're going to turn around, they're going to make everything exclusive they can, save Call of Duty. Like virtually everything else. Unless it's a mainline title like Diablo or Call of Duty, where being multi-platform for live service purposes, I think that's always going to be the challenge. I think that's going to be one of PlayStation's challenges with live service, is that if you're not willing to put your game on the competitor's platform, that really hurts the optics on your live service game, because people are coming from games like Apex and Fortnite and Warzone, where they're everywhere. And so live service games are always going to have, I think, a unique challenge if a first-party Xbox live service game or a first-party PlayStation live service game, if they decide to restrict where it lands, I think you're setting that game up for failure, personally. I don't actually think live service games should be exclusive. I think that's a mistake. I don't care. I don't care who does it, if it's PlayStation or Xbox. I think you're making a pretty big mistake because you're removing what has been, I think, a big win for live service games, which is cross-play. You know, everybody can play with everybody. You don't got to worry. One of my favorite things whenever I played Fall Guys with the community, there wasn't this sort of, oh, what platform are you on? It was, no, here's the code for the server. Just come play. Right. I love that for live service games and multiplayer games. I think exclusives make way more sense when it's going to be, you know, like Phil Spencer referred to them as marketing beats. I actually think that's totally fine. To take like a big name title, you know, like Elder Scrolls. Yeah, we're fairly confident at this point. You know, Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be exclusive, and as frustrating as that is for PlayStation fans, it's like, what do you expect them to do? They spent all this money. It would be kind of weird for them to not make it exclusive.
Right, but what's the? See, I don't understand the people that fight that and say that. Are they mad that God of War is exclusive and Spider-Man's exclusive, or is that okay? Well,
the difference there would be is those are not long-standing franchises that were multi-platform. That's the frustration.
Doesn't matter anymore though. They're owned by the thing, and it's years later. You're talking about Elder Scrolls 6 that's coming out 3-4 years from now, right? That's a full production term, underneath Xbox. So that's like, let's just say it's built underneath Xbox entirely now. So what's the difference?
Well, the difference is, again, it's an existing franchise, so I think in their mind the complaint is different. It would be like saying, man, I loved it when I had Netflix and I could watch The Office, and then The Office gets ripped off of Netflix and goes to Peacock, right?
Yeah, but Spider-Man was an existing franchise, and they just remade it, and then it's only exclusive on PlayStation.
But that was because the rights owners were shopping for somebody to make it. That, again, was different, because that wasn't like an existing long-standing game like Elder Scrolls or Call of Duty where it's always been everywhere and now it's only going to be on one platform. So I think it's different. Like Spider-Man and God of War always get thrown out, and it's like, well, God of War was never a multi-plat, like, hey, it's everywhere. It was always a first party. And then Spider-Man, they were literally shopping the rights around. They went to Xbox. Xbox would have had Spider-Man to themselves because it was getting shopped around. So you're saying
if an existing franchise exists, it should never be exclusive if it's now made in-house with the first party when they bought it.
I'm not saying it should never be. I'm saying I understand
when's the deadline then? Where's that cross the line where it's finally Xbox's?
I'm saying I understand the complaint. Like if you
I understand the complaint too, but I'm asking what's the line of when it's finally Xbox's? When that complaint goes away completely?
Oh, I don't know, because like I said, I told people, what did you expect them to do? I'm empathizing with their complaint, but I'm in agreement. Like, what do you expect Microsoft to do? You expect them to spend this kind of money and not leverage a property as exclusive? Like, yes, it's irritating to think Fallout 5 or Elder Scrolls 6 won't be on PlayStation. I 100% understand, and I acknowledge and think it's legitimate to be irritated. But to expect them to not do it, I don't argue that they shouldn't. I don't argue that they shouldn't be allowed or they should never do it. I tried to tell people, I was like, you honestly think they're going to spend this kind of money and then let you keep playing those games? Like they're going to be like, yeah, here's Elder Scrolls 6 or yeah, here's Fallout or whatever. For me, I'm actually more concerned about franchises I really like falling under the creative bankruptcy of Microsoft. Like, I think they're bad at games. I don't want, like, my complaint's different. It's like, they have every right to do it. It's their property. Why would we expect anything less? My worry and concern is we're going to keep getting Redfalls, Starfields, and Forza Motorsports. Like, this year has just been really shaky for them, and that's what I think the future holds when you have this much property.
Well, the shakiness, I don't know you specifically, but I said this the other day. People came in and like, Gran Turismo is a far superior game than Forza Motorsports, right? Now, I'm not a car junkie guy, right? So I play the car games. They're fun, but I move on. I used to love Gran Turismo back in the day, right? I just don't play car games anymore. I tried out Forza the other day, right? If Gran Turismo is like far superior, and the people on the internet love to go to Metacritic and say, look at the reviews. It's 87, right? You pay $70 for an 87, okay, for Gran Turismo. And then for Forza Motorsport, it's an 85, and you pay $10 minimum to get it on Game Pass. To say that game is far superior by 2 points and $60 less, that's laughable to me, right? Because the people that are playing the game that want to play that game are going to play that game. And if you're on PlayStation, then you'll buy Gran Turismo. And if you're on Xbox, you don't have to buy Forza. You're just getting it for $10. Now, I do agree that the quality of games is different, and they get them out different because they're on a subscription service where the other people are paying a high value item, right? I always hold up a glass of water, and same glass, same water. One says free, and the other one says $15. People walk up to that water and go, "What's wrong with that water that's free?" You're like, "Nothing. It's the same water." Like, I'll take the $15 one, right? Because certain people want certain quality, and they're going to buy the higher price water because that's the way they want to do it. And other people are like, "I'll take the free one," right? And then just drink it. Both water's the same. Both games, both people are drinking water. Both people are playing games. Both people are having fun.
I think the problem with Forza Motorsport, though, is you're citing the Metacritic review score, and it has terrible scores on Steam as well as the Xbox.
I'm only citing it because that's what the population of Twitter likes to do.
Right, and I think that's almost a whole other discussion. That the review meta of gaming right now is astroturfing nonsense. It's not these outlets are not to be trusted. They're beholden to a company,
sure. And I agree with that.
Right, for Forza Motorsport to be getting 9s and 10s and 85s and high scores, and then you go and look at what users are saying about it and what users are scoring it. It's absolute astroturfing. This is not a genuine review, summary of Forza Motorsport. And I think the comparisons to Gran Turismo 7 are objective because of the way that places like Digital Foundry can handle it and measure it and do side by sides, as well as they were promised things that just aren't there. That's the other thing is let's just ignore Gran Turismo for a second. There's things in Forza Motorsport that aren't even there that were promised. And that I think is the valid criticism and critique there. And my pushback and concern and worry is, look at what happened to Jedi Survivor when Disney said, we need a new Star Wars game every 6 months.
Sure, you got to rush it out.
Right, so cadence is prioritized. And look at what happened to Star Wars Jedi as a franchise. They lost their director. He left because more than likely Disney wants that cadence again for the next title, and he's like, I'm not doing this again. We poured so much into this story. I think Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor is some of the best Star Wars story you can get anywhere, including the cartoons, including
Agreed.
Empire. It's fantastic, and they mistreated it so poorly, and that's Star Wars. And it was, it actually did commercially well, which is doubly frustrating because of the IP is so popular. And that's my concern. My concern is not that, Microsoft should not be allowed to make these games exclusive. The minute we talk about this, it always turns into, cry more, pony. They can do whatever they want. It's I acknowledge they can do what they want with their own property.
You don't like
the
work ethic, though. You don't like the contracts they have with the 18 months. That's the biggest problem with Microsoft and the way they do games.
Yeah, I feel that they are creatively bankrupt, and I think that their processes are acidic to creation. And what's interesting is when Phil Spencer was on Kind of Funny, he kept stressing creative. He said it 18 times. Man, he's really stressing creative. He wants people to be creative. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he's on my side of the fence here, that companies should be able to be more creative and not have to have this sort of corporate level one-size-fits-all approach where 343 has half the staff on a contract walking out the door every 18 months. That's acidic to any project. I don't care what the project is. And so that's my concern, is you're going to have so much property. Consider all of Bethesda's property. If it falls under that, or if Activision Blizzard Studios falls under that, that's where I get concerned. Because I'm looking at Hellblade, and I'm saying, oh man, I really, really hope that Hellblade 2 lands incredibly well. Because my concern has never been they don't have a right to make it exclusive because I have all of the consoles. My concern is you guys don't launch high-quality, high-caliber games. You don't. No matter how much people love Starfield and how much fun they're having, it's not an excellent top-shelf game. Phil Spencer basically told us it wasn't going to be. And then look at the review scores. We can make up every excuse we want. It's a bad port. It's being review bombed. This is absolute ludicrous in light of the volume of reviews on Steam. To consider that that's even possible, that people are review bombing it and actually pulling the score down is ludicrous mathematically.
But take the reviews out of it. There's millions of people playing the game, right? There's millions of people playing the game, and that's what counts for those companies. There's millions of people that are paying for Game Pass to play Starfield or to play Forza Motorsports, or they bought it straight up. There's millions of people playing.
Not Starfield, not anymore.
There was.
But that's the issue, isn't it? is there was, and then there's that immediate drop off. Like it's barely. It's
But
barely.
they made their money.
How do we know they made their money though?
But what I'm saying is, Diablo made its money. Cyberpunk made its money when it came out, right? Day one, it made all its money back. And for 3 years, they went around and turned around and fixed it and spent another $127 million to fix the game over 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
They made that money already. Okay. So regardless if it was successful or not, they made their money.
Well, Cyberpunk's a completely different scenario because their share value has still not recovered.
It's the same though. The people that bought it straight up for the collector's edition, okay, well, how much was the collector's edition? $200?
For what?
For Starfield. Was
for Starfield. I thought you were asking about Cyberpunk. I was like, I didn't buy that one. Yeah, it was $200 for the collector's edition.
Great. How much is the regular game? $70, right? Well, that's multiple times. That's almost 3 copies sold, right, for $200. Okay, that's almost equivalent to 3 copies sold for $200. And we know 2.5 million people were playing it on day one for 5 days early access, right? So if 2 million people bought it, but it's actually 3 times the sales because they paid $200 for that. And then the people that didn't have it and just had it on Game Pass and they paid the additional $30, okay, on top of that, okay, the $30 covers half the game. And they don't even own the game. They just paid for the DLC for 5 days early access, right? So they made money. We just don't know what that number is. But we don't want to admit that they actually made money off it. It's successful. They said it's successful.
Well, my issue wasn't how many people played, because I mean, if we look at the numbers now, it's dropped, which is the huge concern for Game Pass.
That's in any game though. Any game does that.
Okay, but that's a unique problem when you need cadence for Game Pass, because that means that's probably one of the biggest games they're going to launch for the foreseeable future. Starfield was arguably one of their biggest, if not the biggest, until the Elder Scrolls comes out, because they don't have. I mean, yes, annual Call of Duty, sure. Once they're able to put annual Call of Duty on Game Pass, that's going to be significant. But as far as like an iconic marketing beat game, Starfield was it. And it's already fizzled out. Like, as far as Steam charts go, they're barely getting above 50,000 peak on Steam. And
Correct, yeah.
My issue was quality, though. My issue is not, a bunch of people are playing and a bunch of people are having fun. Like, that doesn't mean that the game's quality is where I wanted it to be. It doesn't mean.
Sure, but your standards are different than the company's standards. That's what I'm saying. Your standards are that you want quality games. Their standard is that they get mid-tier 80s. Okay, and people buy the game, or people are on Game Pass playing for it.
And what you're saying is why I'm saying my complaint is different than the people saying the game shouldn't be exclusive. What I'm saying is we're allowing a company to take a vast amount of property and put it through the mediocrity sifting bowl that you just described.
I agree with you. I don't like that. All right, I'm giving you the other side, that people are like, this is not successful. They're not doing it, but they are successful. Hence why they keep doing what they're doing, and hence why they're now charging 5 days early access and getting that extra money that they wouldn't have gotten because someone's just paying the $10 or $17 for Game Pass, right? They're making extra money from that, and they don't need you to get the game day one. It's not about the day one. It's about Game Pass. Everything's about Game Pass. Nothing is about the individual game that's coming out. The people that are going to buy vinyl records, the people that are going to keep getting Blu-rays, people that keep getting physical discs are going to be there. Those people are going to buy the game regardless if it's on Game Pass or not. It's everybody else and how many people come to Game Pass. If they're coming to Game Pass and they bought into Game Pass for Starfield and they stay to go play the other 399 games that are on Game Pass, that's what they're doing. That's what we, as the older gamers, can't get through our heads, is that they don't care about individual sales. They care about what Game Pass is doing and all the stuff they're putting on Game Pass.
Well, and people are saying, why am I bringing up Steam? Because Steam had really impressive numbers opening weekend. Like, you can't spend the opening weekend celebrating 250,000 player peaks and a player peak of 330,000 concurrents. You can't celebrate that and then be like, well, Steam doesn't count now. It has a 69% globally. Like, it's dropped out of 70% on the rating. Like, that's the point that I'm making, is if that's going to be the legacy of games underneath their ownership, I look at games that I really, really like, and that's a concern. Like, I'm looking at Hellblade 2. Hellblade's one of my all-time favorite games. And I'm saying, if you shove this game through that funnel of mediocrity of it needs to get out, there's a cadence here, we've got to get these games out, we need one big game per quarter. They didn't even hit that this year. They didn't do one big game per quarter at quality. You got one game out this year that I would say was at quality, and that was Hi-Fi Rush. Starfield, in my mind, was not at quality. It was buggy. It was glitchy. It didn't get great scores. It had a lot of people refunding it on Steam, and now it's got like a 70% on Steam. That's not a great game at quality. 70%, like. Since when is that considered excellent? Like, and then Forza Motorsport, same deal. The score is abysmal everywhere from people that aren't, beholden to staying in Microsoft's pocket, like the Metacritic scores that we're seeing. That the actual people that are playing the game are giving it bad scores. If this was supposed to be Xbox's big turnaround year, it's like, come on. They didn't even do what Phil said they were going to do. One big game per quarter at quality.
Isn't the Metacritic score, I forget, I'm not looking it up right now, isn't the Metacritic score for Forza Horizon higher than the Metacritic score for Gran Turismo when it came out?
Forza Horizon?
Yeah, not for Horizon, Forza Motorsport, sorry. Forza Motorsport's user score is higher than Gran Turismo's user score.
I don't even know, I haven't checked if the user score for Forza Motorsport,
what I love about these stats that people throw out, not you specifically, Lono, is that you can always pick and go to whatever you think is the lowest number to make everyone's point. But the quality is the quality. And again, most people, not the chat, because most people that are watching here like high-end stuff. You like playing 4K, you like playing 60 frames per second, you like the high-end machines, you like playing the PC, you have a high graphics card, you do all that stuff. Now you're the minority. Just know that. Everyone here, you're in the minority of gamers that likes that stuff. Everybody else, the majority gamers, doesn't care. They don't care.
Yeah, I mean, the Forza Motorsport Metacritic user scores are generally favorable. There's 335 user ratings. It's got a 7.8. And people are saying that I'm ignoring review bombing. The idea that people are going to Steam and playing for multiple hours. I went and looked at the Steam scores of Forza Motorsport. And the negative reviews that I saw, I scrolled and I don't know, I saw 10 or 15. They were all well past the hours of refund. It's like, if that's not a review bomb. Like, when Jedi Survivor had a really bad score on Steam, nobody said, oh, it's a review bomb. When The Last of Us PC port had a really bad score on Steam, nobody said, oh, it's a review bomb. But when Starfield score goes down or Forza Motorsport scores go down, it doesn't matter how many negative reviews you read. There's always this hand wave excuse making. It's like, what are we doing here? If a game scores that low on Steam, that's one of the most reliable scores you can get of a game's quality. This idea that people are going and buying a game and playing it for 20 hours, that's not a review bomb.
But I have a question. The people that are on the people that are playing Xbox, you think they're checking the Steam score? Do you think they give two craps about what Steam says? Do you think they care? They don't care. Someone that's just an average person playing video games is not searching what the player base is playing on Steam. Why? Because they're not on Steam. They're not playing it on PC, right? And the person that's playing on Steam is looking for validation. They like playing a game. They're like, well, how many other people are playing the game? They're like, oh, well, there's only 200,000 people playing the game. This game's dead. I guess I won't play it anymore. That to me is ridiculous. Most people play games because they want to get away from reality. Most people don't play games because of what other people are playing. The minority hates about the frames per second, the lights on the car look different, the grass doesn't look real, the trees look fake, all of this stuff that's happening, no matter what game it is. And anytime there's a bad review score, people are like, well, it's getting review bombed because of microtransactions, or it's getting review bombed because PlayStation guys don't like the Xbox. The Xbox doesn't like that, and Spider-Man's going to get review bombed. It's always a goalpost move to justify why something is bad or good, and yet millions of people still play the games.
But the Xbox score is worse. If you go to the Xbox score, there's 1.4 thousand reviews.
How many people are reviewing it?
1.4 thousand reviews. It's got a 2.4.
Millions of people have played it. 1,000 people have reviewed it. Most people do not care.
How do you know millions of people have played Forza Motorsport? How? Only
1,000 people are only reviewing it. No one reviews. I want to curse so bad. No one reviews anything. They don't care. Majority of the population does not care about reviews. Most of the population doesn't care what the user score is on Xbox, on PlayStation, on Steam. They don't care.
Forza Motorsport is 34th right now on Xbox's most played ranking. It's not being played by millions of people. It's in 34th place. It's below
only being
Forza
reviewed by 1,000 people.
It's below Forza Horizon.
So wait, are you telling me only 1,200 people played the game and 1,100 people reviewed it? Is that what you're trying to tell me right now?
I feel like what you're arguing is that if tons of people play it, the reviews don't count because the reviews a smaller sample.
My point is that the minority of people care about what is bad about a game or not. My point is that the majority doesn't give two shits.
But wouldn't the proof be in the pudding, though? If it's in 34th place, the game just came out. It's not even in the top 10. It's in 34th place. So
how many people reviewed Cyberpunk?
I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, I think
we know 25 million people bought the game. How many people reviewed it?
Well, I mean, you'd have to go to, if you want to include every platform. I mean, I could go to Steam and give you almost
go to Metacritic.
Steam. I believe Steam is closing in on 600,000 reviews. 584,000 reviews of Cyberpunk.
Great, 25 million. We don't know how many sold on Steam, but 25 million people own Cyberpunk 2070. And over 500,000 people, right, are reviewed it. A minority of the population reviews games. Everybody else does not care.
I think what you're saying, to me, sounds crazy because if a game has a really bad score on Steam or on the Xbox Store, if it has a really bad score anywhere, generally, that's a barometer of the game's quality, and low-quality products don't get good engagement, which I believe would be demonstrated by the fact that Forza Motorsport just launched as in 34th place on most played. More people are playing Forza Horizon than Motorsport. Forza Horizon has spiked up and is next to Destiny 2. That's the older game.
One is a racing sim, and one is an arcade style. They're two completely different games.
So a 3-year-old game has jumped up and is now close to Grand Theft Auto Online and Destiny 2. You don't think that's related to the fact that Forza Motorsport is incredibly disappointing and bad?
Battlefield 2042 was the most played game on PlayStation Plus. And the game number 2 behind that was Saints Row, the one that just came out that bombed and they closed the studio down. So what's the point? People don't care. My point is people don't care. The majority doesn't care. Number 1 played game on PlayStation Plus is Battlefield 2042. The second place game was Saints Row, the new one that bombed and nobody cared about. But yet it's the second most played game on a console that's like, do you see what I'm saying? Nobody cares, man. Nobody cares. The minority, the people here are the majority in your world, okay? But we are the minority of the actual player base that plays video games.
But I think what you're saying is it's almost like dismissing the facts and stats as if they don't matter because there's people that don't pay attention to them. But I don't think that that's necessarily what I'm saying. I'm not saying, well, the review scores are bad and everybody's going to see that and that means the game's doing poorly. What I'm saying is the reviews and the scores are bad everywhere and the game is dropped significantly in player-based numbers. That is a barometer of what the whole is doing. Like everybody's disengaging, everybody's sort of determining it's not very good or what have you. And I think you could see this in other titles, like with Halo Infinite, right? Like the player-based numbers and where it ranked on most played. You could say, oh, well, nobody cares. They don't check the scores. They don't check these things. But it's like, but when the player-based numbers drop and the game drops, that means people aren't playing, that's indicative of the game's quality. It's not doing what it meant to do. It's not capturing an audience.
Sure, but again, Lono, what I'm saying is you have standards and you like high quality. You like certain things that are running 60 frames per second that don't stutter, all that stuff. You're the minority, my friend. The people that don't care about that stuff are going to play the game. They're going to play 10 hours. They're going to play 30 hours. They're going to play 100 hours. The game could be absolute crap, okay? But they're still going to play the game, especially when it's on Game Pass and they don't have to buy it for $70. They can just play for $10 and they can play it for 10 minutes and go, yeah, it's not for me. And they move on to another game. Right? Again, you're looking at the game's 34th on the thing, but are those people staying on Game Pass and playing other games on Game Pass? That's what matters to Microsoft. They don't care about the engagement of the actual one game at that moment during this moment. They don't tell you the numbers for Halo Infinite. The only way you get numbers for Halo Infinite is on Steam. right? You can't get the numbers of how many people are playing. You can't get the numbers for Elder Scrolls Online. You can't get the numbers for Sea of Thieves. They just have roundabout numbers, and they tell you big numbers, right? 25 million people played Sea of Thieves. 25 million people played, or 15 million people played Sea of Thieves. 25 million people played Minecraft Dungeons. But we don't know. We don't have the data to show what they're actually saying. They just say, oh, 25 million people. 20 million people are playing Fallout 76. I can't imagine that, right? 25 million people played that piece of crap game when it came out, and 4 years later, you're telling me people are still playing that game? Apparently they are. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep supporting it. There's enough people making the money go around for these games, for microtransactions, for engagement. If it's 34th on the list and the people are buying off the stuff, then it's successful for them. It's enough to keep that game going.
The problem with what you're saying is every game is successful. I find your position to be untenable because you're saying every game is successful. There's no way to quantify if a game is a failure because you're saying you're imagining there's this sea of people that play and support it no matter what. It doesn't matter what the player base numbers are. It doesn't matter that 1 week after launch it's dropped so far. Every game is successful according to you.
Unless the game gets closed down, like Marvel's Avengers, right, where no one's playing it and they're not making enough money, then they pull it.
That's what I mean. Like I don't see there doesn't seem a standard here to determine whether or not a game is successful. And if games are performing this poorly on Steam as well as within the Xbox Store, is that not then going to represent what people are going to get from Game Pass, especially first party? And would that not then make them think, I don't really want to keep this subscription? Because if people are going to disengage that quickly from Forza Motorsport, that's a game that is a part of the Game Pass offer, a part of the reason to be on Game Pass.
But we have 400 games to pick from. 400 games on the platform. That's why they're pushing Game Pass. They're not pushing individual games. Here's the next game that comes out. It's on Game Pass. Chat, you guys could think I'm crazy and whatnot, and I have bad takes, whatever. But that's what it is, man. That's what it is. Game Pass is the thing. It's not about the individual quality of the stuff. PlayStation's about promoting next game coming out, Spider-Man 2, looks phenomenal. It does look phenomenal. Okay, this is what you get it. You get it on the $500 system, and you can play it with this cool controller. You can also play it on the go with Portal, as long as it's on Wi-Fi. They're giving you that high-end experience. They are the high-end, here's a food analogy, restaurant, right? You get the high-quality food, you get the high-quality stuff, you know what you're getting. Okay, that's the clientele they're going for. Game Pass is the fast food, is the lower quality restaurant, and they're giving you just the same. They're giving you food, they're pumping it out, and people go there and they buy it and they enjoy it what it is. Okay? The minority of the people that are scrutinizing whatever platform, whatever game it is the minority. The majority of the population on planet Earth doesn't care about that stuff. They don't.
I think what you're saying is leading to a wrong conclusion, though. I agree that the vast majority of gamers do not check Steam, Metacritic. They don't know you and I exist. They don't come to YouTube. They don't care what, bearded white dudes are saying about video games. I readily admit that. But to conclude that means that same group of people don't have standards that cause them to disengage, refund, or cancel something. I don't think that's a position I would conclude or support, because we're seeing sub numbers plateau. You were seeing disengagement. We are seeing some people take the time to go and review the game on Xbox within the store itself and say, sure, it's not a good game. They're giving it a low score. So I think the idea is, I understand your position to be, these people don't care about Metacritic, Steam scores, review scores. They just want to play games. They're the majority, and that leads to games being successful. I still think those people have standards, as is represented by when a game does really poorly, its numbers drop. And we can get approximation of gamer numbers because we know what Destiny's numbers are at any given time because of bots like Charlemagne. And to see games drop well below a game like Destiny, or even non-live service games, like AC Mirage is ranked higher right now than Forza Motorsport. I think you can get an approximation and say, this game did not do well. It's not doing well. It doesn't have a lot of people playing it. It's a quote-unquote bad game, or a mid or poor game. To get into a place where it almost feels like agnosticism, like, well, we can't really know anything. Nothing's really a failure. Nothing's really a non-successful game because people don't care about review scores. I'm not connecting those dots logically. I think part of what you're saying is true, but where you're landing, I can't go there. I'm like, I still think games like this do fail to do well, and people disengage because the game's bad.
Or they can disengage because they didn't pay $70 for the game. They have if someone gives you something for free, if you like it or don't like it, you could play it for hundreds of hours, or you could play it for 10 seconds, and you wouldn't care because you didn't pay for it, right? That's the conditioning that Game Pass is doing. Game Pass is giving you where you're paying $10, you're paying $17 to play these games, and if you love it, you're like, man, this is great value. And if you don't like it, you're like, it's not a big deal. It's $10.
Well, and I think to your point, everything you've been saying is one of the reasons why Game Pass what got us here. We went on a long sort of back and forth match, and chat was agreeing with you, and chat was some were agreeing with you, and some were agreeing with me. That's why we do this, guys. As long as you're respectful, we appreciate you being here. I'm going to get to super chats in just a second. I am sorry to the super chatters. I don't like ignoring them, but that was a good back and forth. We're rarely that opposed on topics, so I just kept going. What got us here was cadence driving down quality. And I think that's why I think Game Pass as a strategy isn't tenable, because what you're saying is, well, they don't care because they didn't pay $70. They can just disengage, no skin off their neck. The problem there is eventually you're going to get a group of people that only sign up for Game Pass for a particular game, and they're going to immediately cancel because the cadence of games are mid 70 to 80 games. They're not getting these top shelf productions. So that's why I'm looking at it and saying what got us here is, man, oh man, I don't want Microsoft to have all this property, because look what they're going to do to games. They're going to crank out a bunch of mediocrity to feed Game Pass.
Well, it's too late. They have it. So
right.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
I'm going to complain, Mike. That's all we can do, right? I got
right. You're going to complain, and everybody else is not going to care.
Or no, I think they are going to care. I think PlayStation 5 is having a surge of sales, and Xbox is having a slowdown in sales, because I think people are switching sides.
Fantastic. And if they do, they vote with their money, vote with their wallet, and then they go to that side. And when you go to the other side 10 years from now, when there's only these same games over on PlayStation because they're not as big a company as Microsoft and they're not buying all these other companies up, right? This is why I play games anywhere, wherever I like. If I like this game, I buy it on that system. That's what I do, because I like games. Microsoft doesn't give a shit about the games. And I'm sorry I cursed again, right? They don't care about the games, okay? They just care about the platform. They just care about Game Pass. If you're on there for one game or two games or 5 games, this is why they give you the stats of, 40% more people play games they wouldn't play, or like they wouldn't even give it a shot before. Now they're giving you shots about it. You know what I mean? Like there's games out there that are being played by people that never tried before. Maybe they came for Starfield and they started playing Cocoon, right? Like who knows what the group is doing? They don't care what you're doing as long as you're on that platform, as long as you're in-house on Game Pass. If it's buying a microtransaction, paying for extra 5-day early access, paying for each and every single month to stay there for the brand new game that's coming out, Xbox has to keep pumping out products, though. Mid-tier, top tier, doesn't matter. They have to keep pushing out, because they've set the standard now that I paid this much money and I want more games coming out. But this month alone, they have I think it's 7-8 games coming out in October just on Game Pass for the first time.
Yeah. Let me thank these super chats, though. I really don't like missing those, because I know you guys sometimes you're trying to contribute to the conversation, and I will be better about this. We usually can take a bit of a breather, but I wanted to stay on the the verbal sparring. I thought that was enjoyable. And listen, for people that think, a lot of podcasts are echo chambers, or a lot of channels are echo chambers, hopefully this show on Fridays can show you, you're going to get different perspectives, different ideas. We've had Doc Dark on, we've had Ginger Prime on, and both of those gentlemen don't see eye to eye with me on Game Pass and different things. So we want you here in this community and the conversation and the chat, even if you don't agree with what I'm saying, or if you don't agree with what Mike says, just contribute in the chat respectfully. Shooter Forever with a $5 super chat says, all Elder Scrolls were either exclusive to PC or Xbox, or had timed exclusives or DLCs. Forza had horrible performance on PC, but looks beautiful. True SSJ Havoc with a $5 tip says, to Doc in the chat, he's talking to Doc Dark, Spider-Man now is made and funded by PlayStation, unlike prior when previously third-party publisher Activision had the license. And then $2 from the same guy, True SSJ Havoc, says to Mike. He says, Mike, Forza has problems. Rated a 1.8 on Game Pass. And then $10 from Thanaros. I'm sorry, but user reviews aren't the end all, nor should even be used as a bullet point. User reviews are biased, not only by haters, but longtime fans that get mad by the smallest changes. I'm always interested in the dismissive position about user reviews. Wouldn't you be throwing confetti in the air if Starfield and Forza Motorsport had a 93% on Steam and a 93%? If it had a really good score, I feel like you would not be saying that. People are only dismissive of review scores when they're low. They don't do that when they're high, because it's hey man, You look at the user review scores of a couple of games recently that have been holding like Baldur's Gate 3, for example, on Steam. Like, come on. We should be celebrating that review score on Steam. That's crazy to have that level of customer satisfaction, right? A $2 tip from Richard Rodriguez. Not reviewing does not mean they like the game. And Mike on the mic just put in a $5 super chat tip. That was a good back and forth. That's why I've been here since Archon's Forge. Good job, gentlemen. And a gifted member from Mike. Thank you. Go ahead.
Can I touch on real fast? That's the person that says just because they don't review games doesn't mean they like it. That's correct. They don't care. That's my point. I appreciate it.
Well, but I think his point is that they may be giving it a review score internally and saying this is bad and not playing.
Sure. But my point is that most people don't review. That's my point. They don't care. They don't care enough to review it. They don't care enough to review it.
I'm not supposed to say non sequitur anymore, but I'm going to say non sequitur. I think that's a non sequitur. Them not giving a review does not logically lead to apathy and they don't care.
If they don't care enough to put a review on one of those sites, then they don't care. They just move on. They're like, this game was bad. They just move on. Or they're having a lot of fun with the game and they just keep playing the game. They don't review it, good or bad. They don't care to review it. They don't care.
Both you and I have Star Wars movies that we hate. I have never gone anywhere and left a review of those movies.
Either have I, because I don't care because I love them, right? I hate Ahsoka. I hate Boba Fett. I didn't go give a review. Why? Because I don't care about reviews. I don't care.
But okay, the correct statement would be to say you don't care about reviews, not you don't care. Saying they don't care, this is what your position sounded like, and maybe that's why we were having some misunderstanding. You're making it sound like they're apathetic and just enjoying the game anyway. When you say they don't care, what you mean is they don't care to leave a review or they don't care about reviews?
If they don't go to a review site, they probably don't read reviews. And if they like a game or dislike a game, they're also not going to give a review because they don't care about that section. They don't care about that part. They just play a game and they go, hey, this is a good game. And if their friend comes over to them and they're like, hey, did you play this game? They're like, oh yeah, I played that game. They're like, oh yeah, it was fun, right? Or it was terrible. They don't care to give reviews. They don't care if a game is bad. They just move on Game Pass because they didn't pay $70. If every day you had to pay $70 for that game, every game that came out, there are 7 games that came out, right? So that's a lot of money to spend $70 on all the games, right? You wouldn't do that. Well, on Game Pass, you're paying a monthly fee and you try 7, 8, 9, 10 games out and you're like, some of them are good, some are bad. I play a little bit of it, but they don't care. They just having fun. They shut off their brain. They don't leave a review. They don't care. They just enjoying the time, or they're enjoying hating the game or enjoying loving the game, right? That's what they do. Most people don't care about giving reviews. Most people don't care if a game is bad. Most people don't care if a game is good. You guys in chat can keep going back at me, okay? But I bet you majority of you don't even leave reviews for games. I bet you a majority don't even care about review scores, and you're just coping right now by going, oh, Mike's wrong. 30's wrong. I disagree. And you can disagree, but the truth is the truth because 25 million people played Cyberpunk, but 25 million people, not even a fraction of a person reviewed that game to tell you it was bad. YouTubers make a video. Everyone watches the video and they're like, yeah, I heard it was bad. I heard it was bad. That's it. They echo chambers. They're parrots repeating other people's things.
But I didn't leave reviews for any of the games I've played recently, but I go check them. And I care to see what others are saying. So again,
why don't you leave reviews?
Because I don't want to take the time to do it. That doesn't mean I don't care. Like I got really angry at Obi-Wan, and I care, and I'm passionate about the character and the story arc, but I didn't go leave a review. Same deal with like
no, but you vented on your YouTube channel.
Right, but when I go check a review of, okay, so like Lords of the Fallen dropped today, okay? And I went and looked at reviews, went and listened to what people were saying. I heard about performance problems, okay? And I played it today, experienced the performance problems, and I let people know. I didn't go leave a review, but that doesn't mean I don't care. I do care. I went and read reviews and was basing my own searching in the game for like, what am I going to find? Am I going to find performance issues? I'm on guard for that. There are people that aren't going to buy that game because of the reviews. They do care.
But there's going to be more people that play that game that don't read a review or don't do anything to watch the thing. They're just going to buy the game.
Right, but there could be people that buy the game and never leave a review, and they do care, and they're angry and they're disappointed.
And they get a refund or they play the game.
Well, not necessarily on console. Like refunds on console, I think need to be like streamlined the way it is on Steam.
So then they spend the money and they're upset. They don't leave a review and they still spent the $70 and then they don't play the game anymore. and then they go buy the next game that comes out and it's bad and broke, buggy, unfinished, and they spend $70 and they don't review and they don't care, but they just leave it on the shelf and they're like, oh, I'll just move on to the next $70 game that's broken, buggy, and rinse and repeat.
Okay, Richard Rodriguez with a $2 super chat tips. This again, not caring doesn't mean like or it's GD. I mean, if I don't know what you're trying to say. Typos are tough, man. 5 spot from Joker Quinn. Reviews are good for a ballpark idea, not definitive. Well, I think that's where we're some people might be passing the night here. I was never trying to indicate that reviews are definitive, but when you have that many people saying the same thing, and you have that many people over here saying the same thing, when the score is generally landing in the 40 and 50%, to dismiss that and to hand wave it and say review bombs, bad port, or people don't care, I'm like, I don't understand then. Like, how do we determine the quality of a game and its contribution to Game Pass as an ecosystem then if that stuff doesn't matter? Like, what is there that we can then use to determine if where it lands on most played games doesn't matter, if its review score doesn't matter? Well, then what does? Like, how do we measure a game's success or impact on Game Pass?
Back in the day when reviews actually mattered, when they actually cared, like reviews, and people actually read the reviews and stuff like that. Now, if a game gets a bad review, it's being review bombed, and if it's getting good reviews, it's getting the opposite of review bomb because people are fighting the review bombs. So when you go look at a review, you'll see a whole bunch of 10s, a whole bunch of 1s, and they're very many between the middle, like nothing in the middle, because most people think the review process is broke. It's a joke.
It is on Metacritic, but the reason I was so pushed back strongly with you is Steam and Xbox require purchase, and I can see how long someone has played the game on Steam.
Sure, but there's people that buy the game, review the game, and then cancel the game, right? There are people that do that. Come on, Lono, there's a person that'll come in your stream and make 1,000 accounts just so they can say something to you after you ban them, right? That's what people do. People are all over the place in their head, right? People will buy a game and return the game just so they can leave a review. Not saying the majority of it does it. I'm just saying there's people that do that. They go far out of their way to make a point. The guy on Twitter that said he was going to do 1,000 reviews, bombs, or whatever for the game. I forget what game it was, right? And then they said they're going to return the favor on Spider-Man, right? The whole review process is just broke, right? We as content creators use it to have conversations. Look at Metacritic. This is an 8.7. This is a 7.2. It makes good conversation back and forth. But the majority of people think the whole review process is just is an errand. Is a fool's errand. You know what I mean? It's nothing. It's just garbage now.
Those people are wrong because Steam does not count the refunds in the score. It even dictates and says this person has refunded the game, and you have to buy the game on Xbox to leave a score, and you can't just refund a game on Xbox willy-nilly. You got to go through a whole process. It's not easy, and they don't let you do it like they do on Steam. It's not as easy. You only get like so many refunds.
If I'm a PlayStation guy and an Xbox guy, why do I care what Steam says? Half the ports sometimes are completely different games.
I'm not saying that the people on PlayStation and Xbox should care. What I'm saying is, if anybody is saying that user review scores are broken, they're wrong. They're only saying that because their favorite game got a bad score. There is no way to demonstrate.
You're talking about Steam. You're talking about Steam specifically. Is what
Xbox Store as well. You have to buy it to leave a review. PlayStation just added the review score to the store. When I go to my PlayStation, I can see what people are giving it a score as. These are people that bought the game. That's a great resource to me to see that, oh my gosh, 5,000 people reviewed this. It has 3 out of 5. Like, this must not be a very good game. Like, they have to buy the game to do that. Metacritic is a joke. I will always admit that. Anybody can go leave a score on Metacritic, and they mobilize on Reddit and 4chan, and they go review bomb. That's a joke. Metacritic, the user score is completely worthless, because I think you're right. It's become a battleground, and it's pointless. But I think user scores within the store that they have to purchase, I think those are very reliable.
Okay.
Now, that was a lengthy discussion about Game Pass, and I think this pertains to the future here of the Xbox Activision deal, because what we saw this year was Hi-Fi Rush, Redfall, and Starfield. So 3 of the titles this year were from an acquisition. So if they would not have purchased ZeniMax, they would have had Forza Motorsport this year, is basically what they would have had. And even if we can no longer debate review scores and what people think, objectively, Forza Motorsport shipped without features that were promised. It shipped incomplete, missing features. It doesn't have the ray tracing that was promised. It doesn't have the 4K 60 FPS ray tracing that was promised. And it doesn't look like anything like they showed us when they marketed it a couple years ago. And it doesn't have all the tracks. So, to me, I'm looking forward and thinking, okay, now you've got Activision Blizzard. Are we looking at a similar pattern then with game releases? Or we're going to be dealing with the exact same thing where we're going to turn around and say, well, this entire year is Activision Blizzard, and will it be at the caliber of games we got this year? Because if you ignore Starfield, I don't think Redfall and Forza Motorsport are a good look. It's like that really hurts the year in my mind. If you want that cadence, and Starfield's like the only respectable game. Well, I mean, I keep forgetting Hi-Fi Rush, but Hi-Fi Rush isn't a big game at quality. Phil Spencer's big thing is like a big game at quality. I think when he says that, he's like, he wants big AAA landing once a quarter.
And the Halos, the Gears, that type of stuff. Yeah.
Right. Because if they can do that, at some level, I think that'll be a miracle. That'll be phenomenal. I can't imagine having Game Pass and every quarter having a game releasing like a major AAA game at quality. Like that seems that seems like highway robbery. Like I've always said, Game Pass's value is insane. Like that's crazy to me if they actually start pulling that off.
The only company right now is Sony coming out with games day and date. That I mean, obviously, God of War had a couple problems. Horizon Forbidden West had a couple problems, right? The PC ports, when they come out, they have issues. But Sony's quality of releasing a game on day one when it comes out is great. Third-party companies and Microsoft's first-party companies, they come out and it takes 6 months, 10 months, 12 months, 18 months to fix those games. Some of the best games out there. I mean, even though Baldur's Gate 3 is super successful, they were playtesting that game for 2 years before they launched it, right? So they were working on that game, and it was out in the public for people to buy to test that. Cyberpunk took 3 years to fix. 2042 took 2 years to fix. What's another game that came out that was it takes years? I mean, No Man's Sky took years to fix, right? So there's a lot of games that come out and they're broke, buggy, unfinished, and that quality in general, I don't want to say the mass market of video games are coming out broken, buggy, because there's a lot of independent games that come out and they're fine, but they want to release a game just to get it out there, and they'll worry about fixing it later. And I think you could say with the quality of Game Pass, you can push back a little bit and say, yeah, I mean, Starfield, I'm enjoying very much, but it has its issues, and they'll fix it over time. Diablo, Microsoft didn't own them. Diablo has problems. They're fixing that over the next 12 months to get it where they want to. And this is the problem with the industry as a whole, that they're releasing games that are unfinished, broken, buggy, and then they fix them over time. If that's because of live service, if that's because it's planned up, if it's planned that way, so they feel like the community has a voice, and they say, oh, we're listening to what you're saying, even though they know they keep things out like scoreboards, or they keep things out like certain dungeons or something like that, and then they put them in at a later time. But yeah, the game industry as a whole has problems. I wouldn't put that solely on Microsoft and their first party title games.
Well, and I don't think it's purely on Microsoft. I think there's a systemic thing going on where this has been seen in a variety of ways. We saw it with crunch culture, because these publishers were pushing dates that were just not tenable, just not possible. And I feel like what's happened is, as we push back against crunch culture, and as companies have basically started declining to treat their people that way, I think quality is starting to go down, because basically people are like, we're not doing that. I'm not going to ruin my life for a video game. And especially, and this is one of the reasons why I've been so nervous about consolidation. I've been so nervous about acquisition, because the minute you get corporate level companies like Disney in the room and Microsoft, that's the way they operate. Like, we've seen it firsthand. You and I, as Star Wars fans, we've experienced this firsthand. We know what happens when some big company buys your favorite property and says, we need something out this often. Then you get Obi-Wan and you get Book of Boba Fett, right? And I don't that
I'm having PTSD just saying that name. I'm having nightmares in my head right now.
Right. And I look at this and think the exact same thing. I'm like, well, kind of the discussion that I did want to have with you at the tail end here. This will likely lead to more acquisitions.
Yeah.
This will lead to other companies throwing their hat in the ring. Apple, Google, Amazon, Tencent.
Yep.
Embracer Group just recently did a bunch of layoffs, downsizing. They're looking to sell, I think, Gearbox. And that could be them freeing up funds to make some purchases, right? Or maybe not. Maybe that's just that's a cautionary tale, right? Everybody look at Embracer Group. That's a very real future we could be looking at in the coming years.
Yeah,
these big companies just buy.
Yeah, because they didn't get the $2 billion from the Saudi Arabian, and then now all of a sudden they had to fire a bunch of people and downsize.
Right. Oh, I think I might have some super chats to thank. I'm so sorry. This has been hard. You guys have been so generous today. Swoozy says for a $5 tip, Lono, please let me debate this guy. You're way too nice. Wait, Mike and I have been friends for like 8 years. Y'all don't understand. Like, I know it might be a foreign concept that people can like passionately disagree and not insult each other or, talk down about each other. We've been doing this a very long time. Thorn with a 10 spot. If 30 were correct, Marvel, Disney, Warner, and Netflix wouldn't decline due to the quality of their product. A selection of low-quality to mediocre games isn't worth one fantastic game. Well, where do you see I don't want to go back there. I'm trying to kind of move on from that. We've kind of beat the Game Pass horse to death. On the subject of acquisitions, we were talking about this yesterday with Cloud, and I did a little bit of research, and I spoke to some people, I can't like name my sources, but I was talking to people about PlayStation's Cloud and their plans for the PlayStation Portal. And through my research and some polite nudging that I got from this person, like, hey, look at this. The end user license agreements of games is what makes cloud streaming so difficult. So in its beta, NVIDIA, like GeForce Now, had a bunch of games that disappeared once it went public out of beta, and it was because of the EULAs, the license agreements were a problem, and this is why PlayStation's looking to do PS5 streaming, because it'll be on their device. So the EULA is a lot cleaner because you're not going to some other piece of property. Like, I bought the game on Xbox, but I want to stream it on GeForce Now. The license agreements are a problem there. And I basically said, we're about to enter the content war. We're already in a content war, but it's about to really heat up, because if you own the property, you own the license agreements. You can determine where and how the games show up. And if cloud continues to grow, that makes more sense of this acquisition as well as future acquisitions, is they want to control who can throw this game on cloud, where this game shows up. And I think that's a huge advantage to Microsoft, because if they can grow the ecosystem and the cloud capacity, they're going to have just a war chest of a catalog to throw at it. Who do you think starts entering the picture next? I mean, we see this. Disney was floating around the idea of going after EA, and everybody was like really upset about that. And I was like, how is this any different? You guys think it's so cool for Microsoft to do this? Well, here you go. We're going into the buying war now. Here, this is the next generation of the gaming fight.
Yeah, well, EA just got out of a 10-year contract with Disney, right? With Star Wars, where they were the only ones to make Star Wars games, and they didn't make very many because no one else could make anything, right? So now Disney reached out to multiple studios, and now they can all make Star Wars games. If Disney buys EA, then EA is there, which I think is stupid, because they got rid of all their gaming companies within Disney, right? And now they're going to buy a gaming company conglomerate to put into Disney, where they had one of the best gaming companies with LucasArts, right? And they shut them down. That was like 10 people that just make sure the licenses go out, and they let the licenses go out, and so they maintain that. But if they pick up EA, one, it's huge for Disney, because now they have all the sports games, right? For majority of the sports games, right? They're getting the NCAA, they have the NFL, they would have the it's not FIFA anymore, but it's FC. They have all those sporting, and then their next games that EA is making is Iron Man and Black Panther, and I think there's another Marvel game that's in the works that we don't know of yet, right? So there might be 3 games of Marvel, right? So I know
Iron Man. Did you say Iron Man?
I said Iron Man. I said Black Panther. There's another one that they're making.
There's the one. There's the Captain America Black Panther one.
That's not EA though.
That's not EA. Oh, you're talking about EA. I thought you were just talking about Marvel games.
EA.
Okay, sorry.
EA. So if EA it gets picked up by Disney, and then Disney can just take that company and make as many Marvel games or Star Wars games as they want now, they technically don't need to go out and try to find other people to make those games anymore, right? So let me paint a picture here, right? Sony's biggest seller right now is Spider-Man. Okay. Well, if Disney, that owns Marvel, that has the license to Spider-Man, because Sony only owns the rights to Spider-Man in film form, right? They own it. They're leasing or licensing out the Spider-Man for video game form. Once that's over, whatever the contract is, I don't know what it is. But if Disney buys EA, then they could potentially just say that EA is the only one making Marvel games, and EA is the only one making Star Wars games moving forward. And if they did that, then that would be a huge hit for Spider-Man on PlayStation, would it not?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I actually don't know how they're going to handle Marvel games going forward, because what it looks like to me is they're going to start treating it like Warhammer. They're just going to let anybody that wants to make a Marvel game.
As a gamer, I would love that. As many people as possible make the Marvel games. Yeah.
It seems that way with Star Wars too. Like, every time I turn around, I feel like there's rumblings of somebody's making a Star Wars game. And that's why I get really leery of Disney being involved at all, because they're like, yeah, we want everybody making Star Wars games, but then like the underside of the weakness there is they say, well, we want a new one every 6 months. So
right.
It's like, oh my gosh, like you're gonna, the director of Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order, him leaving, I think is super concerning. That's very concerning. This guy, he's going to Santa Monica. And I was like, I wanted him on the third game. I thought the first two were fantastic. Once you get past, the horrible window of bad performance in Survivor. And that's where I'm looking at the gaming industry and thinking, I saw that article, what was it, Financial Times, saying it'd be great for Japan to sell Nintendo. And I was like, what? Why?
No.
Why would you want to do that? Nintendo's been
fine where it is.
Yeah, they're doing great, and we're on the cusp of potentially a Nintendo Switch that can actually have, more modern performance levels. At least this is what we're hearing from the rumors and the leaks and what was shown at Gamescom. And I said this the other day, that I think we're about to really, really see three distinct players, because there are people that were in chat today that were like doomsdaying. Gaming is dead because of this acquisition. Calm down.
Yeah,
calm down. The third place player can't kill the industry. Trust me on this, okay? Nintendo's not shaking in their boots, and honestly, neither is PlayStation, okay? But Jim Ryan said they would never recover. Okay, well, in context, what he was saying, for sure, if they lose Call of Duty, recovering that revenue would be insanely difficult, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think he even knew that wasn't going to happen.
Right.
Homie was posturing and doing his best to keep the deal from going through, as Microsoft postured to get ZeniMax in similar fashion. We'll handle this case by case, and then everything's exclusive. Like, everybody's doing their best to either get the deal through or get the deal to be canceled. I don't think that we're in any danger here of, PlayStation. Somebody said a minute ago, they're like, I'm not trying to be rude, but how are they going to recover from this? I think we're going to have three very distinct players going forward. And PlayStation sent a loud and clear message this week with the pricing of the new PS5 model. They're not even factoring Xbox in. Brad Sams made a video, and I agreed with him. I was like, they're like, yeah, the digital's $50 more, and the vertical stand we're selling it separately. They're pulling an Apple, is what I said.
Yeah, they're microtransactioning the hardware now. Yeah.
Like, it's not, Apple's like, you don't get headphones or a charger anymore,
Yeah.
And
we won't put a power button on the console anymore. It'll just be on the controller, right? Like, the type of stuff like that.
Yeah. Is the PlayStation 5 Pro going to ship without a controller? Like, is that what's next? I feel like that's what's next. But that's what I think. I think PlayStation's going to be the premium, high price, like Apple of gaming. And I actually think they're going to do just fine doing that. I think their accessories sell really well. I think their plans with cloud are going to be, I think the PlayStation Portal is going to surprise people at $199. I think they're going to turn on cloud later, and it's going to be a force to be reckoned with in markets where there's good Wi-Fi citywide. And then Nintendo's going to be Nintendo. Nintendo's got first party. Nintendo's going to have a stronger Switch. They're going to still be very, very competitive with portable. And then I think Xbox is going to be the economical Game Pass ecosystem.
That's what I said earlier. I said PlayStation's the high-end restaurant, and Xbox is that fast food. They're that middle ground of what people want, right?
And really expensive steakhouses exist, but so does McDonald's. Like, there's room for equilibrium in the market. I think the frustration for gamers is the collateral damage along the way is some of their favorite properties going to suffer because of this. Because Microsoft, I don't look at them and have confidence in what they can deliver. I haven't seen that this generation. I just haven't. If you're always having to debate and defend, like, I don't have to go out here and defend the quality of any of the Sony titles I've bought this generation. I don't have to. I don't have to be like, oh my gosh, the review scores are bad, let me concoct a reason why. It's like, no, the review scores are great. The only thing that was bad this generation was a port to PC, The Last of Us, and that was embarrassing. That was a joke. Iron Galaxy? What are we doing? Why'd you use them? Well, they were trying to capitalize on the popularity of the TV. The TV show. So it's like, I think that's the collateral damage, which is why this gets so passionate and why people get so angry, because they're watching property that they've grown to love and they're thinking it's going to go over there and be a 75, 8 out of 10 game instead of a masterpiece I was hoping for.
It's the same thing that's happened with streaming services as far as like Netflix and Disney Plus and Hulu and all the other ones, right? Like, if you have your favorite show or series and all of a sudden it's on one series and they're like, oh, well, they got the rights and they moved it over, and you're like, now I need to go to HBO to watch that. Now I need to go to Netflix to watch that, right? It's a smaller scale, but that's what it is. Like, the things that you love that are on the thing that you're watching all of a sudden get picked up, bought, and then moved, right? So all of Fox was bought by Disney. So now all that stuff is on Disney Plus. So if you want to watch anything that Fox Studios, you have to go to Disney Plus to watch it, right? And then you're like, oh, I really want to watch that, but now they're raising the price, right? And this is it. This is how they get you. They wear you down, right? So let's say you're just a PlayStation guy, man. You're just a PlayStation person, and all of a sudden there's that one game that comes out, but you don't own an Xbox. You're like, oh, man, I really want to play that, whatever that said game is in the future, right? Maybe it's Gears, the next Gears, whatever. And people are like, man, that looks pretty good. I'm going to go play it, but you don't have to go buy an Xbox now. Your TV might be able to run it through the cloud, or you might have, your phone or the cloud streaming or whatever it is, right? You can just get Game Pass for a small little price, and that's what Microsoft is hoping for, where Sony is like, look, man, we're giving you high-end stuff. We're giving you a nice system. We're giving you a VR headset. We're giving you the portal. We're giving you the service of movies. We're giving you the service. 10 years ago, when Microsoft said they're going to make a set-top box, everyone was like, slow down. We don't want that. And now look at what PlayStation's doing right now. They're giving you the set-top box of where you can watch their movies, you can play their video games, you can do it cloud streaming, you can do it mobilely while you're in your house and someone takes the TV over. They're doing the exact same thing what Microsoft wanted to do 10 years ago, and no one's batting an eye. Why? Because we were worn down. We're like, man, that's good. Now I can watch all the movies on the PlayStation. I can cloud stream on the PlayStation. This is fantastic, right?
Well, and this is why when we talk about this, I always look at the subscription services in TV and I think they're all facing trouble right now. You know, there's talks of like Apple's going to buy Disney, and Netflix I don't even know where Netflix stands. I don't know how soon they're going to even have any of their first property endeavors, because as far as hemorrhaging cash and not being able to maintain growth, that's always going to happen. And so I'm genuinely curious what Microsoft's plan for Game Pass is, because there's just interesting commentary from Phil. It's like, well, for a while there, we all thought Game Pass was the future, but then he tells the Brazilian regulators, it'll only amount to about 15% of our annual gaming revenue. It's pretty much plateaued on console. Are they going to start to think differently about Game Pass, how to get more money out of it, how to foster purchase? Or can you use Game Pass to get people to buy games so then they can play them early? That's something I've continued to promote. It's like, people would totally buy a game if they could play it a week early, but just make them have Game Pass. Make them have Game Pass. Well, yeah, people have been buying the Ultimate Editions for 72 hours. Like, you don't think they would buy the normal edition and make sure they have Game Pass if they get a week early? Like, that just seems like such an easy win. And I've continued to think that we are going to see an evolution of Game Pass and xCloud, and I think Activision Blizzard will kind of be the catalyst to that. They're going to be able to leverage so much property and potentially restructure what you get and how you get it. Game Pass Core would even, I think, potentially get rolled in. I don't even know if they're going to keep that. The way it's structured right now, you have Core, and then $1 more, it's Game Pass. and then there's Ultimate. But then Core you get online, but the
25. It's like 25 games or something like that.
Yeah, but then if you upgrade for $1, you get the monthly games, but then you lose the online. Then you got to go to Ultimate. I think they just want everybody on Ultimate. It's like just try to get everybody on there to have that be your primo package. I think PlayStation's doing the same thing with PlayStation Plus, with xCloud and Crunchyroll, and
they lose the online access on the $11 one.
Yes, it's so bizarre. The structure of Game Pass is so backwards from where I sit.
I didn't know. I'm an Ultimate, so I didn't know that.
Yeah. Game Pass Core was Xbox Live Gold. Like they rolled everybody over.
And they just moved it over. Yeah.
So they retain their online, and standard Game Pass, if you bump up for $1, you lose.
Crazy. You lose the online access, meaning I can't play co-op or anything with anybody online.
Well, unless it's a free game. Free games that doesn't apply to, like Fortnite, you don't need the online for. They updated that a couple of years ago.
But a lot of the games that they have on Game Pass are multiplayer. Like they did it on purpose. I mean, that's what they did.
Yeah, to me, it's like they're trying to, get people to the Ultimate, and I get that. Like, why would you not want to get people to Ultimate? I think that's the end goal: is you get people on Ultimate. They have so many features, so many benefits, so many awesome things that canceling is painful, and then you can slowly raise the price.
What happened to that family plan they were going to do?
Oh, Where's Did they roll that out? I don't remember if they rolled that out or not. It's been hard.
I think they did a test in certain regions, but I don't think it's come out at all.
Yeah, I thought that was coming out this year. Friends and Family, August of this year, it looks like it came out. They have an announcement right
everywhere.
Here. Starting in July, existing primary and secondary members will be emailed details describing this change. So it said, on August 15th of 2023, the Game Pass Friends and Family Preview program will end as we review what we've learned over the past several months.
Okay, yeah. So they haven't launched it yet. It was out in testing. I got you.
Yeah, so it tested in different regions. Testing has ended, and then they sent Ultimate Game Pass codes as a thank you for participating in the program. So the people that participated got taken care of. They got a little thank you. With an Ultimate code. It doesn't say how long the Ultimate code lasts for.
It's probably 3 months. They're doing the bundle right now with Xbox, $300 for the Xbox Series S, which I thought was pretty funny. There's no bundle for the X, just the S. It comes with the controller, the system, and 3 months of Ultimate for $299.
I mean, it's a bargain, and I've actually questioned canceling Game Pass just because we haven't been using it. Like it's like one of those things where if you're not using it, you feel like you're kind of wasting. And I felt like canceling it just to kind of see would I even miss it. Like, and I wouldn't for the past 6 months. That's how they get you. You forget and you don't use it. But next year, I think is the year they start really cranking out the titles and start saying, all right, here's this, here's that, here's Call of Duty, here's classes, maybe some classic titles, some older titles. I know, Keighley tweeted, Jeff Keighley was like, look at all the property that Microsoft now owns. Like all of the games that they could, bring back. It would be, obviously it'd be exciting because, I mean, everybody got excited about Perfect Dark. That's kind of, that project's nowhere near coming to market because of what happened with all the people leaving and restarting. But I mean, the nostalgic factor works a lot of the times for remakes, for remasters, works for Nintendo. There could be a pretty big resurgence of some of those older titles if Xbox thinks it's a good idea, especially if they can throw them on Game Pass rather quickly. So especially though some of those games would be smaller projects, I would imagine.
Right.
Well, we talked about, I think, pretty much everything I wanted to talk about because I thought I didn't want to do 2 shows. A lot of the times I do 2 shows when stuff like this happens. Like I give my own thoughts and do a monologue. I was like,
you bleed in and you cannibalize it.
Yeah, and I didn't want to do that. So I played Lords of the Fallen this morning and then chopped it up with Mike. I'm actually going to update the description here so Mike is clickable. I didn't have him as clickable in the description. Guys, make sure and support him. While I am doing that, guys, do me a favor. If you have enjoyed this show, we had over 700 people for most of the show. And make sure and smash the like button. We could easily hit 400 likes right now. I guarantee there's about 100 of you that haven't smashed like. Take the time to do that. This is the second show of the day, so you may have not hit like yet. And 7 more members, and I'll owe you 5. We are going to go to a VIP thing, and then Friday nights is a member stream as well. It's a great reason to be a member. But Mike's going to tell you about his channel and where you can find him and what you can do. And I'm going to update the description so you can click on his name.
Real quick, those 300 people that haven't hit the like button, you're the same people that don't give reviews. So go hit that like button. All right. You can find me on 30NSG. I do streams Monday through Thursday from 10 o'clock in the morning to noon Eastern. We cover the news. We have banter back and forth. Chat is 100% part of the show. We do gameplay from 8 p.m. to midnight, Monday through Wednesday. We do uploads every single day now, and we also do a podcast on Thursday nights, which ends my week. So, which is Generation X Gaming, the weekly podcast that goes over a few of the top stories in the past week, and we're going to be doing episode 370 next week. So we're moving along, almost 10 years.
Man, a long, long time. We typically go to a VIP segment, and we've been having to schedule streams a little differently because we noticed YouTube made a nice update where they're letting you know about members only streams. Thank you, Borbs, for 5 gifted members. They're doing a much better job of letting you guys know, but we were absolutely obliterating your notifications. So we are making we're going to great pains to not do that. to not absolutely, destroy your noties. You were getting like 3 notifications for one member stream. I'm like, I think they just need 1. That's a little absurd. So I'm setting that up right now. If you got a gifted membership from Borbs or anybody else, feel free to pay it forward. If you guys want to do a quick little member train right now, that would be awesome. If you want to upgrade to VIP, you can come to the VIP debrief that we are about to do. If you're not a VIP or higher, Friday nights I do a stream and I hang out with my wife. We have some laughs, we have some drinks. I don't know what we're going to play tonight. Probably a goofy game like we did last week. I think we played Mario Party just for fun. And so make sure you don't miss that. If you are a member, get in the Discord as well. The Discord's available only to members. But I'm going to start up the VIP stream, and then I'm going to redirect everybody over, and you should be able to come with us if you're VIP or higher. Let me make sure I've got this set right. Okay, I do. Let me make sure I have redirect set right. I do. All right, let me provide a link in chat as well. And again, make sure you guys smash like on the way out. If we get quick, yeah, do 2 gifted members real quick, and I'll give 5. I'll owe you guys 5 if we hit 50. Let's not miss it by just 2. That would be such a shame. I love paying it forward and saying thank you and gifting members to you guys. Why do I not see the VIP stream? What is going on? YouTube has been so weird lately. Like, I schedule streams and I can't see them right away.
Yeah, that's been happening to me as well.
Is it in the yeah, it's in the members only playlist, and it's set up. There it is. Lawson helped us hit it. There we go. We landed 50. Let me pay it forward and gift 5. So you lovely people that are gifting members, thank you so much. And you lovely people that are getting memberships, that means that you watch enough, support the channel enough to get one. I love doing it at the tail end like this. A lot of the hate watchers have left. So it's going to the loyals that support the channel with likes, a subscribe, viewership, lurking, all those things support the channel. Thank you guys so much. There's the 5 that I owe you. So you guys can tune in tonight, and you can be a part of what we're doing. You can also be a part of our Discord. And don't forget, with a gifted membership, you can upgrade to Member Plus for $1 or VIP for 5. You can upgrade, and it's a lot cheaper to upgrade because you just got it gifted. And then you can be a part of everything that we do. So I'm going to go ahead and boot up the VIP stream. Thanks so much for being a VIP or higher. It's going to be the weekly VIP unfiltered debrief. I can talk, and I don't think Mike's going to be able to stay with us for this one, but he'll be here maybe for the first minute or so. And I hang out with him and my producer, and we do some fun stuff. We have something fun today we're going to be doing that I think you guys are really, really going to like. And I'm going to pull you guys over from the talk show, and as the talk show ends, smash that like button, and we will see you guys either in the members content tonight on Friday, or we'll see you on Monday in the next show. And I'm going to go ahead and end that stream and pull her